It felt quite confusing, it felt quite jumpy, and I didn't really believe in the characters. Hello, it's January, we're in a new year, we're in a new month. Let's see how this month's reading went. Welcome back to Francesca's Books. I am of course Francesca, and these are my pride and joy, my books. Today I'm going to give you a review on all 8 books that I read in January, starting from my least favourite over to most favourite. This month was a good reading month. It was better than last month's reading month where I only read 5 books. That was due to personal circumstances, but I am happy that I'm kind of back to my normal rhythm. However, the quality of the books was not amazing. It was a really mixed bag this month, but I'm going to show you which books to avoid and definitely which books to pick up. Without further ado, let's go. So starting right at the bottom of the barrel, The School Reunion by Shalini Boland, I only gave a 2-star. So you're probably thinking, Fran, you read The Silent Bride and you literally loved it. It was like, maybe not a 5-star, but I absolutely loved it and I talked about it loads. However, this book by the same author just did not live up. I feel really bad as well because since I love The Silent Bride so much, the author like sent me a signed copy of her new book. But I mean, this just proves that I don't lie to you guys. Like, if I don't like a book, I'll say I don't like a book. So I'm really sorry if Shalini, you ever do see this review. It really isn't anything personal and I love your work most of the time, but this one I just feel like wasn't your best. So The School Reunion, it's told from dual point of view. It follows Chloe, who's dreading the school reunion, of course, 15 years after she's left school, and it also follows Dean, who's a single dad. You're not really sure how he's relating to the story, but he's looking for revenge. So my issues with it was that the storyline was pretty weak. And not really that gripping, but my main issue was with the characters. So they literally read like they were children. So this is obviously a school reunion, but they were behaving like they were in school. Like, I'm literally talking like one of them locks one of them in the toilet and turns the lights off because she's like wants to talk to a guy that she's not supposed to. Like we're talking just silliness, like absolute silliness. I'm not sure if the author was trying to get like a bit of regression back into the characters since they were back in their old school building and around the same people, but I mean, no. So the reason I gave it a 2-star, not a 1-star, was because the actual final plot twist definitely got me and I definitely didn't expect it, but apart from that, I was struggling to think of anything really positive to say in this review, so I'm sorry. It's just the truth. Also, side note, Chloe's mum in this book is absolutely infuriating, and not in like a characters written to like really hate them way, just like unnecessarily nasty and doesn't add anything to the plot or the book or any of it. Anyway, next up I read The Chalk Man by CJ Tudor and I gave this one a 2.5. So this is told in a multiple timeline of our main character Eddie. So it's firstly told in like 1986 when he's a child, and him and his friends draw these like chalk figures on each other's driveways as like a sign of like where to go and meet and like who's wrote the message. It's quite cool actually. I kind of wish I thought about it when I was little. Then we flip to Eddie in 2016, which is when I'm guessing the book was written, and it follows him as he finds a little chalk man stick figure like in the pocket of one of his trousers, and he thinks like that one of the guys did it, but that's kind of the whole premise of the story. There's also a couple of like mysteries as you go, like a couple of unalivings that don't seem to feed into the plot until the very end, which is good, and I did like that. This book was just okay, like it just definitely wasn't anything mind-blowing, and the characters were good, but I just wasn't like super invested. I felt myself skimming a bit towards the end, and that was kind of a bit of a telltale that it wasn't a book that I loved. If you go into this like idea thinking it would be like a paranormal book or like a horror book or something really suspenseful, then you'll definitely be disappointed, but if you go into it with a realistic expectation, then you might enjoy it more. I actually had somebody in my Bookstagram comment saying that if you were a child of the 1980s then you would enjoy this book a lot more, and I feel like that probably nostalgia to it means that it would be a book that like if I gave this to my mum, I think she would enjoy it more than I did. The writing's a little bit more complicated and it feels very like you are in the 80s, so I don't know. Next book. So next up is the highly recommended First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. This book has been everywhere in January. It's literally the only book that I've been seeing reviews for. The marketing team on this have done a fantastic job, I have to say. It's everywhere. So this follows Evie Porter, who takes undercover jobs from her boss, Mr. Smith. It gives you a bit of backstory about her previous jobs like as you go through the novel, and it's told from the point of view of her current job where the stakes are really high. So the premise sounds great, the popularity brilliant, but this one was not for me. I quite like the ending of this book. This was a summary which really does it for me, and if you've read it you'll know exactly what I mean. Of course, don't want to give away any spoilers. However, I was struggling to think of anything else positive to say about it. It felt quite confusing, it felt quite jumpy, and I didn't really believe in the characters. And also what it was really lacking was like a sense of mystery, of like something that it was building to. So like typically in thriller books you kind of, it's going somewhere, do you know what I mean? You know that there's like a big plot twist coming, or there's somebody who's been unalived and you're kind of like waiting to find out who it is. There was none of that in this book. It read more like a memoir, but obviously a fictional one. It was kind of like just about her life. So this is the kind of book that I would recommend to somebody if you liked Blood Sugar or if you liked How to Kill Your Family. It's that kind of vibe. It wasn't awful, it just wasn't for me. So I originally gave it a 3-star. I'm thinking it's probably more like a 2.5, but it's definitely around that mark. Then next, I read Fool Me Once by Harlan Coben. This has been also everywhere in January, both on Netflix and in the Bookstagram community. This book follows Maya, whose husband Joe is unalive right in front of her, so she gets the shock of her life when she sees him on their nanny cam. I actually read this at the same time as the Netflix show, so like I read a bit, watched a bit, but this is one of those rare occasions where I did actually prefer the show. This book did drag a little bit in the middle. I feel like it could have been a good 50 pages shorter, but I did enjoy it. It was just nothing like wow. It was a bit more complex of a story, so if you like that kind of thriller, that one might be for you. I can read for the first time. So then I read The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, who also wrote the Inheritance Game series. I gave this one a 3.5, and it was just like a good solid book. So it follows Cassie, who's a teenager. She's really good at reading people, and then one day the FBI get in contact with her and literally just want to hire her. They've started like this program for teens to help solve like cold cases and like train them up, and the premise is really good. I really enjoyed it. This was such an easy book to read. It is YA and it is like a YA thriller, so if you're looking for something to fly through, this was so easy. This is a series as well. I will be reading the next books, but I'm not like in a massive rush to read them. I feel like when I read the Inheritance Games, I literally couldn't wait to read the next book. I don't know if that was just me, but with these, I will read the rest of the series. I just won't probably prioritize them. But there's a strong female main character, there's a little bit of romance, there's definitely a lot of thriller, and there's definitely twists, so yeah, I enjoyed. Then I read Lisa Joel classic, Then She Was Gone. I really liked this book. I gave it 4 stars. This book follows Laurel, whose daughter went missing 10 years ago, and then she meets her new partner 10 years later, and his daughter looks suspiciously like Ellie did 10 years ago. This means she starts questioning everything again, and she's just so determined to still find her daughter. What I love most about Lisa Joel's books is that you know it's a Lisa Joel book. Like, everything just ties nicely, the characters are so well developed. I just can't recommend this author enough. The characters in this book felt so real. I read it in 24 hours and I really enjoyed it. The only thing was I did like guess where this book was going, and I'm not even sure I would call it a plot twist. I think it was just quite predictable, like where the book was going to go next. That might just be me, but I still rated it 4 star because it's one of those that I still thought about, like I still think about now, like a few weeks later. Typically, if I could guess like the story arc, I wouldn't rate the book as highly, but this one just absolutely took hold of me and I really enjoyed it. I forgot I had this in paperback. Then I read The Lies I Tell by Julie Clark. I rated this one 4 star as well. This book is told in dual point of view. It follows Meg, who writes men who have wronged her and who have wronged other women. She's a big Lana Myers vibe character and I really liked her. And it's also told from Kat's point of view, who's a journalist. This book was gripping from the start and definitely didn't disappoint. I was a massive fan of the characters in this book. The only thing that made it a 4 star instead of a 5 star or a 4.5 for me was that there wasn't like anything plot twist like about the ending. It just kind of wrapped up nicely with a bow, which was brilliant, but there wasn't any like real twists or surprises. I feel like this falls on the border of psychological suspense, but was definitely enough of a thriller for me to love it, and I got my teeth into it and I didn't let go. It was a 24-hour read. Then my final read and my favourite read of January was Local Woman Missing. I gave this a 4.5. This follows the story of 2 women and a young girl who went missing 11 years ago, and then now a teenage girl turns up after being held captive. This book has taken me way too long to pick up. It's on Kindle Unlimited and I've literally had it downloaded since I got Kindle Unlimited and I've just never got around to it, and oh my god, what a mistake. The only reason I didn't give this one a 5 was because it was a little bit slow to start. It did take me until around a third in to like be really invested in the characters and even where the story was going, but after that, absolutely fantastic. This book literally gave you twists out of nowhere. It started these little plot twists really early on and that just absolutely does it for me in a book. So now I need to choose the books I'm going to read in February. Do let me know which ones you think I should read. If there's anything that's on your radar you want to see a review of, or maybe your favourite book that you've read so far this year, do let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you next time.